I'm Chris.
And I'm Kiley. And this is Redefining Resilience,
where we explore what it means to build a resilient lifestyle
so you can thrive in any and every situation.
We have Will Yank here with us today. I'm super excited to talk to Will about his life journey of resilience. And first, I think we have to acknowledge Will slid into my LinkedIn DMs, which is why we're here today.
Correct. That is a fact.
So why I think it's important is because Will is in sales, and on the topic of sales, because a couple weeks ago we talked about sales and dating, and this is obviously something that I do for a living. I coach sales teams, and Will caught my attention because he actually said nothing about business. He made his message all about us and what we do for work and how it related back to his personal journey. Will, do you remember what your message said?
I don't remember exactly what I said, but I could probably pull it up if you want me to.
No, just
Okay.
Recap.
Something along the lines of, you guys are dealing with resilience. Your brand is resilience, right? And so I just mentioned, hey, this word is key to my vocabulary due to what I've been through. I've survived cancer X amount of times. I would love to talk with you more about what you guys are doing and learn more about you. And then that was that.
And the rest was history. So Will and I chatted on a Zoom call that I think we went way over time on, and it was so interesting learning about your journey. And I was like, we have to get him on the podcast because other people need to hear this. So, Will, tell us what you do for business.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about you.
Yes. So my full-time gig, I guess I'm a financial advisor, planner, Northwestern Mutual. Been running that practice for 4 years now. We have a nice collaborative unit. I'm one of about like 6 or 7 of us as we're growing this unit. So it's been pretty awesome to kind of see that group expand as we recruit more folks. But yeah, we're all our own individual practices technically, but I think collectively, I think I told you on the call, we have thousands of clients, and we meet with clients all across the United States, and it's been a really cool experience to get to help people with something that I personally found passion in after my parents financially planned for me and was able to cover me when I got sick. Really, that's the only reason I'm probably still sitting here, is because they were able to take on a lot of the early onset costs of my cancer diagnosis. So
Okay, so tell us a little bit more about that. When did you first learn that you had cancer?
The diagnosis story was so nuts. I don't know if I necessarily learned that I had cancer or cancer happened to me, really is how I'd explain it to people. I was in D.C. doing an internship on Capitol Hill. I was a headhunter. And while I was doing that, I was about a month into the internship, and my hands started to hurt really bad. I felt like I had early onset arthritis, and I didn't really understand it. And as a 21-year-old, I was a track athlete in college. I did all the jumps, triple, long, and high. I did CrossFit every morning at 5 a.m. along with everything else I was doing. I was a guy that super fit. I started a brief modeling career, I guess you could say. So that was all happening just in the best shape of my life ever. And yeah, one day I just didn't feel well, and I went to an urgent care. They told me I had mono. And I was like, okay, what does this mean? And so they gave me some magic mouthwash, which pretty much just numbs your mouth and your throat. And they were like, recover and go back to work.
Oh my
and I was like, okay, great, let's do it. And then 5 days later, or how many ever days later, I kind of lost count, I try to get up to go get a bottle of water from our fridge that I was living in this living unit with my roommate, and who was actually my boss at the time of the internship. I didn't have the strength to open our refrigerator door to get a bottle of water. And I was talking about being on some Floridian vacation that I thought I was on. Delirious, completely delirious. He's like, I don't know what's going on. And so I just said, or he's like, we're going to the ER like right now. And I was like, okay. And carted me into the ER, and 10, 15 minutes later, the doctor runs in. He's like, your body's shutting down. You not only have leukemia, but you have an MSSA infection that's eating your tissue and skin from the inside out. And yeah, you're on your deathbed. I was like, oh, great. It sounds
Holy
sick.
shnikes, man.
Yeah.
So the cancer wasn't even the biggest problem at that time.
They had to get the MSSA infection in control first before they even touched the leukemia, which is scary. So
thank God you were so healthy going into it.
yeah. Doctors told me that's the only reason I probably survived, was because I was so healthy going into the situation. I probably wouldn't have been able to be bedridden for 2 weeks had I not been healthy. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So, not ideal.
No, but good for you for putting in the work ahead of time so that you were healthy and strong enough to fight this.
Definitely. Thank
Do
you.
you come from a family of healthy people? Like everybody works out, everybody kind of eats healthy, or?
That's a really good question. Relatively speaking, so my mom growing up was classic hippie, loved the woman. I was like a cloth diaper baby. I think I told you that, Kiley. And like as we grew up, I mean, life just gets busy. I mean, my mom is very career focused, and so she was working on her career and everything like that. And parents divorced, obviously just trying to take care of 2 kids, me and my older sister. Like life just gets busy. So the food and the things like that didn't take as much of an importance, but we were always in sports. So my mom always expected us to at least be in one sort of sport or doing something outside. And this was during my younger child years in Nebraska. So I was doing like traveling soccer, basketball, and golf were my 3 things then. And so we were always kind of active. I wouldn't say we were like, oh, let's all go to the gym together and like get a lift in or anything like that. But relatively speaking, yeah, we were, having healthy food around the house was important to my mom, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah.
That's interesting. Usually you see the children are, not usually, children are the byproduct of their parents. So
Yeah.
The way they lead you is the way you follow.
Yeah,
So,
no.
yeah.
And my mom was a marathon runner and everything like that growing up. Like she used to run with us in the stroller and everything like that, right? So, but yeah, I think we all kind of took our own athletic paths, I think. And my sister now runs marathons and she's crazy. Love her. My little sister played volleyball in high school and she just went to college. So, yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
All right. So you get this diagnosis, which is kind of just like, oh, we've got a BOGO on awful medical diagnoses today.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
hear, oh, I've got both of these things going on. What is going through your mind?
I remember vividly before I kind of like blacked out because of the trauma. I laughed at the doctor and I was like, "You're joking! Like this is hilarious!" Like, and he's like, "No, like I need to call your mom." And I was like, "What?" And so I get my mom on the phone. I was like, still in a little more kind of like delirious state. I was like, "This doctor thinks I have cancer. He's gonna talk to you. I don't think it's real." And I like gave him the phone. And like pretty much after that, I blacked out because I was like, "Oh, this is real." So he told my mom, and they were trying to figure out, they're like, we're not really sure if he's going to be able to make it. We have to stabilize him before we take him to Johns Hopkins to get the treatment and get treatment started. And so luckily they were able to stabilize me. But by the time I'd gotten to Hopkins, of course, moms have superpowers. She was already there with a plan with the oncologist, like waiting for me to arrive in my room. That's like a 10-hour drive, I think, or 12-hour drive from Indiana. So she kicks butt. But yeah, that's kind of how that played out, I guess.
Okay, so you get to Johns Hopkins.
Yeah.
And then what?
Immediately get put in. I don't have a very vivid memory. We recorded a lot of it because at the time, pre getting sick, I thought I was going to be this crazy YouTuber and vlogger and things like that. But I was actually just I don't even know if I could say this, but a douchebag. I was just a jerk.
we cuss on this
Okay,
podcast.
yeah, I was just an idiot and a tool, quite frankly, self-proclaimed.
Hilarious.
And yeah, I mean, my mom was like, I know Will's going to want to see this though. And so she picked up my vlog camera and actually recorded a lot of the experience for me. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
But they just immediately started chemo and I was on pretty much a 24-hour antibiotic as they tried to, just get the MRSA out from my body. But yeah, it was wild. So, I mean, we immediately started chemo and fluids and all that fun stuff that you just have to start taking. And they threw a central line in my jugular and just started pumping me full of stuff.
Wow.
And I gained like 60 pounds of fluid weight.
That's insane.
Yeah. Just blew up like a balloon.
Okay, so then what happens?
Then we go through, I would say, a week or 2 in the ICU where they're just like trying to like stabilize me to where I can go on like the pediatric oncology floor where they can just take care of me. The nurses can kind of just, do regular vitals and like have a normal patient. And that probably happened a week and a half or 2 weeks after. I don't really know the timeline exactly in my head, but yeah, I mean, it was just a stabilization process, and then them just trying to get me to relearn how to walk, relearn how to eat, use the restroom. I didn't use the restroom for, like, I peed, of course, but I didn't. Poop is a huge thing when you're that sick. Like, I was constipated for probably 2 weeks.
Oh my god!
And so they were like, that was a huge goal when I pooped for the first time. That was actually like a really big deal because a lot of that medicine and things can actually sit in your gut. And they were like, we need to get this out. Like, this is toxic for you. Like, we need to get this out. And I'm like, I'm trying. I swear to God.
Yeah.
And so obviously they're throwing like all the Miralax that they can, laxatives and all that stuff. And you're just trying to.
So not only do you have all this medicine in you, you have a bunch of laxatives to get the medicine out of you. I bet that was nuts.
Yeah, it was nuts. I was on a morphine pump. I could trigger that whenever I needed it once an hour, which was really nice. I was just in so much pain. My skeletal structure wasn't built to take on the additional 60 pounds of fluid weight. And so walking for me was almost impossible. Like, it took us probably 3 or 4 days for me even to stand up again for the first time. And I just remember that being extremely painful. And yeah, just not really sure, like, okay, when am I going to walk again? I also had, just being so tall, so I'm, for those that can or can't see me right now, I'm 6'7", and so not only did I need a bed extension, I had orthostatic issues. So like getting blood to my head was like impossible, and my heart was so weak at the time. Like every time I stood up, passed out, like literally, like stood up, nurses were like, and he's falling. Like, I'm like, talking, rocking Kesha, you know? It's like, what does she say? What's that song?
Timber.
Yeah.
I was all over,
it's going
man.
down. I'm yelling timber.
Yeah, I was like, I'm going down. They'd be like, okay, and they'd catch me there and
oh my gosh,
pick me back up. And yeah, it was tough for a while, but yeah, it was weird having to relearn how to, like, because my body was just so damaged. I mean, and the nerve damage that I was experiencing from the MSSA, like I just had to relearn how to use all my fingers, and it was weird, really weird. Like we were doing like OT and PT, of course, to like try to figure out how can I just do acts of daily living. Pick up a fork. Didn't have to have my sister feed me anymore, which was awesome. Humbles you really quick.
Okay, so you are in this internship in DC, and your goal at that point in time was, I'm going to kick ass on this internship, and then your goal became, I have to poop.
Yes, yeah.
And walk.
And
breathe. Feed
breathe
myself and breathe and function and just do all these basic things that we all take for granted on a regular basis.
Of course.
What kind of feelings were you dealing with during this whole thing?
I remember, and I couldn't, I'd gone to the restroom, and this is the first time for whatever reason, looked in a mirror and actually like understood what was going on. And my parents had shaved my head in the ICU because apparently my delirious self was like, let's just take it off. They're giving me chemo. Like, I don't want to deal with the hair in the bed and like all this stuff. And when I looked up, I actually couldn't recognize myself.
That's wild.
What was that
And I was terrified. Like, I was just scared. I was just like, I remember like bawling my eyes out. My mom was like, oh my God, like, are you okay? Like, are you hurt? Or like, what's going on? And I was just like, I don't even know. I don't even know who I am. Like, I don't know what's happening. Like, and it was awful. So a lot of sadness, first accepting what was happening. I just talked with my therapist this morning. We were talking through the initial diagnosis, and I was in denial for probably the first 2 or 3 weeks. I kept telling my mom, like, no, I'll be good. Like, this is I'm probably just sick. They just got to get me better, and then I'll be out of here. And totally in denial. My mom's just like laughing. She's just like, you're going to be in here for a while. And I was like, no, I'm not. Like, yeah, you will.
How long were you there?
We were at Johns Hopkins for probably almost a month, so I'd say 4 or 5 weeks, just there. I finally got to fly back to Riley, like a month and a half later.
And then what happened at Riley?
Riley, we just kept trying to figure out what treatment path was going to work. Okay. So we initially did like regular pediatric chemo protocol. Like, let's just start with the basics, and that's what they did. But then they found out that wasn't working. And so at Riley, it was really just a trial and error of like, okay, these chemos aren't working. I continued to do PT and OT. I just tried to move around as much as I could. I was still partially wheelchair bound. Like, I couldn't go long distances by any means or anything like that. But then they decided to do CAR T cell therapy. So I don't know if you know what that is, but genetically modifying your T cells, which are your immune system cells, to kill the leukemia, which is a super holistic kind of way to do it. You're using your own body to fight rather than a toxic method. And so yeah, they chose to do that probably about 4 months in, as they say, oh, like, okay, each time we do a bone marrow biopsy on you, we're not really getting any better. We're not getting any worse either, but we're not getting any better. And that's not the point. So they don't want to keep. And I was an advocate for myself. My mom was an advocate as well. It's like, why are we pumping him full of chemicals if this clearly isn't getting us the desired outcome that we're seeking? And so that was the outcome of that.
So bone marrow biopsies are not fun. That's a painful thing.
Yeah, that's hell. It's just hell. Yeah.
How many of those did they do?
I had one a month for probably 6 months, and they also did spinal taps as well. I don't know if you know spinal tap. Yeah, so getting your spinal fluid out, and then if you ever had a spinal headache, that's worse than any migraine you could ever experience in your entire life. But yeah, I mean, they would do those about once a month just to kind of see where I was at because it was so acute how I'd presented. They needed to make sure that I was either tracking or not getting worse, of course. So yeah, they just stick a 10-inch needle. I mean, it's huge, and then just it's thick, and they'll just dig it and scrape your bone marrow out and pull it out. And I'm only like, I was very fortunate. They agreed to let me use I don't know if I was on propofol, Valium, whatever crazy meds. Ativan didn't work. I hallucinated on that when they tried to give me an MRI. But I was on meds that they were able to at least make me loopy. But I mean, you wake up from that and you're like, holy crap! My hip got hit by a truck. So yeah, not ideal.
Where was your headspace at during all of this?
Yeah, so I would say this is at Hopkins. I'm now on the normal floor. Again, let's kick it back to 3 weeks in. I'm just regaining function, passing the days, watching TV, trying to get my life back together, figure out what's going on. And interesting enough, I listened to, do you guys know who Inky Johnson is?
Yeah.
From Tennessee?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so he's a football player, Chris, and he pretty much got hit one football game and has a super inspirational story. He lost all feeling in his right arm or whatever, and then is a motivational, inspirational speaker now. And I used to listen to his inspirational and motivational speeches constantly. I had those things memorized down pat. And one of the things that he says is he says, why not me? And so one day I woke up and I was just like, why not me? Why not use this opportunity to help somebody else that is going through something similar and use this as an opportunity to leave something behind or leave a story behind where it could help somebody else. I just woke up that day and it was just like my mental attitude just switched. Prior, I'd always been relatively motivated, disciplined, consistent, had a strong head. But obviously, the emotional toll that everything was taking, I was just like, I have really a choice on how I want to respond here. And I got to choose. And I can either choose to, be the victim and, let this F me up. Or luckily, Inky had a physical thing. So I was like, if he can do it, I can do this. So just
that jump is so profound for most people, though, because most people aren't really presented with any kind of real pain in their life.
Yeah.
So whenever there's anything profound, it's absolutely crippling.
Yeah.
Mentally, morally, physically, just wipes them off the planet.
Yeah.
Do you think your childhood and your view of physical health and long-term goals and all those other things and internal intrinsic motivation as a child, watching your mom run marathons and things like that, made it easier for you to make that jump?
Wow, that's a really good question. Yes, I think there's definitely a component of just my upbringing, and my mom is just a killer, like an assassin when it comes to just being devoted, focused, and attacking things that she wants and goes for. And so I think mentally, whether it be personality wise that I picked that up from her or whatever, I think that definitely played a huge role. I also know that in that time, my mom gave me the space to feel and think the things that I needed to kind of come to an acceptance of what was going on to help bridge that quicker. So my mom ran a mental health nonprofit, domestic violence, women's shelter, etc. She's the CEO of it. She just merged it with the mental health hospital, but she knew a lot of these things to kind of okay, my son is this is serious, super serious. And so how can we make sure that he comes out of this mentally well, I think, as well. And so whenever I had feelings come up, she's like, don't hold it back. Like, and she would have people like leave the room if I didn't feel ready to like feel the feeling. She's like, no, we got to like have you feel this stuff. Like, you need to cry, you need to be angry, you need to yell, you need to scream. And so, yeah.
So there was no like just deal with it feeling. You got to actually lean into and feel the feelings.
Yeah, I would say that was a huge piece that helped me come to an acceptance of what was going on. Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. That's not fighting reality. That's frustration, allowing to feel the feelings. Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. I did a TED talk on emotional acceptance and how that's how I cured my cancer, was through emotional acceptance. But in reality, it was what cured me was actually just, I think, the mental shift I was able to take. I don't think that actually cured me. Of course, there's modern medicine.
I think it could have.
Maybe, yeah.
I think the mind is the most powerful thing on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It has done some things we would consider quote unquote wackadoo, but it's powerful, man.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So was the daily attitude that you would remind yourself, like, why not me? Was that your mental talk track during those days?
I'd say that, and I was very, very fortunate as well to have the support that I did. I don't think I don't want to credit myself with just being a spectacular story. And even sometimes when people bring up, or like if I go to these events and I'll speak and tell my story and stuff like that, I was like, a lot of this credit goes to like the people that are around me. Like, I don't know if I would have been able to make the jumps and hurdles that I did had I not had my mom talking through things with me, family, a therapist to talk to, and all the resources that Johns Hopkins provided as well, right? Whether it be the connection that I made with the nurses or things like that. I feel like that helped just at least give you the edge, right? If anything, because you could have been in a lot of different environments where you had people that were negative, weren't encouraging, weren't trying to see you heal, and things like that. And when I'd posted on social media what had happened for the first time, I think the overwhelming support that I got from that as well, people were like really surprised to see it anyways, because I'd gone from, again, excuse my language, but douchebag Will, who was super healthy and like kind of a tool, to like dignity gone, right? Humility gone, identity gone, like completely new person. So it was crazy. Yeah. So mentally, was it why not me? I think partially yes, but it was also the people around me maintaining that level of environment, positivity, focus, etc., that allowed me to like continue to do it.
I think that's, again, why it's so important that we surround ourselves with positive people, because when you're in a situation like that, you have to have people around you that can lift you up when you need it.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I'd agree.
Okay, so you end up getting this alternative treatment.
Yes.
The T-cell therapy. What happens then?
I get into my first remission for 6 months.
So it worked.
Yes, it worked. It was pretty awesome. We called it a CAR T party, and we just had fun in my hospital room. But I was one of the first people to receive it after it got FDA approved in the country, and so they were still on heavy watch of that. So I was still in the hospital for probably another 2 weeks or a week after I'd received it. But once they saw I wasn't really having any signs of the side effects that you can get from that, they were like, okay, like, let's get him out of here and back to life. And so I had about a 6-month period where I actually kind of got back into life. I was kind of prepping to go back to school. I actually partied a lot. Don't recommend that. You get a second lease on life. You're like, hell yeah, F it. Like, I'm out. And like, you never think it'll come back again. And then it's like, psych. 6 months later, remission or relapse one. And I was like, oh crap. Okay. So then I go back out. We do another dose of the CAR T. It puts me in another remission for probably 3 months. And then they do another bone marrow biopsy, and then they're like, and it's back again. So then it was like, okay, now we got to figure out like the big guns. And so the next roughly year was figuring out what we want to do there.
So what was the mental hurdle like 6 months in? You're partying, you're having a great time. You're kind of flirting with the douchebag Will again.
Yes, yeah. Like
the
I
normal.
did this.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Like what did that feel like? What's the conversation like?
Yeah, like inside my head.
I mean, even with the doctor, like I wouldn't even have any idea how to fathom how that would go. Like,
yeah. Well, I remember we had gone out to a bar at IU actually, and I wrote on a T-shirt "Just Beat Cancer," and like went out that was the night of my life, by the way. Everyone loved it. It was,
sure.
Yeah, it was super awesome. But that was super fun. But then, yeah, if we're talking 6 months later, we're talking to the doctors. I was like, I feel really well. Like, I feel good. And the first relapse, you don't actually feel it come back, right? There's not like a feeling you get. It's not like, I wasn't like, oh, I kind of feel sick or weak or tired or anything like that. Yeah. It was just a check-in and, seeing in the bone marrow biopsy, oh, your residual disease level increased. We need to get you back. You got to take treatment again. It's like, fuck, okay, What do I do now? That is jarring, I'll be honest. Especially when I thought I was going to be like clear, because I was like, oh, I've taken such good care of myself. Everyone around me was like, oh, you've done such a great job, and da-da-da-da. I was like, yes, like I can do this. And then it's like, I don't know whether you believe in God or not, but God was like, let's push you right back down. Like, you need a little bit more time to kind of get humbled here with life because you don't have it all figured out. So,
do you think you were flirting with the concept that you had kind of like beaten life? Like you figured this shit out and like Will's got it.
Yeah, so like you have like the invincibility complex, right?
Yeah.
Before I was sick, right? Where I was like, I've taken such good care of my health. There's no way I could get sick. That was my straight up. I've actually told people that too. I was like, this is so messed up, but I was in that stage, again, tool bag, thought or looked down upon other people. Again, it was totally egotistical. Like, how could you not take care of your health? Because, that's why you're sick. That's why you are overweight. That's why you're feeling that way. That's why you're doing the things that you're doing. But that was a quick reality check, obviously. And I guess all that to say, yeah, I think I got a second wind of like, oh, I'm invincible. Like, this is great. Like, I can do anything. Not. And I think that's where the second remission or the first relapse actually probably helped my future out, honestly. So, yeah.
Okay, so then you go back into remission.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another relapse.
Yep.
What happened? How did you find this one out?
Again, just another checkup. We were doing, I think at that time, it wasn't every month, but I think it was every 3 months. They were doing a bone marrow biopsy check. And so I was like, okay. And so we went in for a routine one, and they were like, oh, we're back. So, and I immediately the second relapse, I had just started back at school. So I was moved into my fraternity. My first 2 weeks of class is already done. It was my senior year. I was like, let's get after it. Like, I can't wait. Within 48 hours, I was on a flight back to Johns Hopkins to go back into treatment, to get chemo and start treatment again. I'd moved all my stuff back out of my room, and I was gone. It was wild.
That sucks.
So quick. I remember getting pulled over, actually, on the way home. I got pulled over. I was going like 90 because I was just like a wreck, right?
Yeah.
Emotionally. The cop pulls up, can tell, and he was just like, is everything okay, man? And he can see all my stuff in my car, and I'm like jammed everything in, and just left. And I was like, man, I just got, I just relapsed on my cancer for the second time, and I have to go back and get treatment. And God loved the guy. He's like, okay, like, it's okay. He's like, I'm going to take your license just real quick. We'll just run this, but just slow down a little bit, okay? And obviously let me off. And I drove out, and I was like, yeah, I'll be slower. And yeah, so I just went 70 instead of 90 down the road. So I was like, I'm getting home. Like, I'm out of here. So,
oh, my gosh. Okay, so then what did they do more of the T-cell therapy?
No, so they went back in, and this time it was like, okay, let's figure out what chemo cocktails could work. Like, what could we do that would make a difference? And so that was chemo cocktails. That was immunotherapies. That's when I got introduced to immunotherapies for the first time. So I think anything that ends with a mab is an immunotherapy. So inotuzumab, blinatumomab are the two that I took. I just see other prescription commercials and they end with mab, and they're like, this is an immunotherapy. And I'm like, that might be right. Started with the immunotherapies. Those actually did work pretty well. So those would actually pretty much boost my T cells again and kind of keep things at bay, which was super nice. I was on this satchel bag of those 24 hours a day. I would do my own infusions and stuff like that. I took the bags out of I was like a full trained nurse for a period of time. It was awesome. Not really.
It doesn't sound so awesome, but I guess you're independent, so that's
right.
great.
That's right. And I mean, I was cleaning my PICC lines and, had my port and all that fun stuff. And so it was one of those things where, we were just trying different things. And then finally my oncologist agreed. He's like, we just need to do a transplant of some sort. We need to get you fully radiated, completely chemoed, and then just do a transplant. And so
Transplant of what?
my stem cells. So that's what we ended up doing, a stem
Okay.
cell transplant with my sister. She was a 50% match. Johns Hopkins pioneered the 50-50 match for a stem cell transplant. And so we were able to do that. And yeah, her cells are stubborn as hell. Like she
So
is.
your sister's stem cells have kept you alive
Yes.
and kept you in remission.
You look like you're trying to swallow it. Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So how long ago was that?
That was probably 2021.
Okay, so it's been about 3 years
3,
that
4
you've
years.
been in remission.
Now, yes. Yep.
Heck yeah.
I know. Yeah.
Okay, so what are the lessons learned from this whole experience?
Oh, gosh. Yeah. That's the fateful question. And I've been actually considering this as I've been building out speeches and stuff like that I can actually take, quote unquote, to market for myself.
Right.
And I think some of the things that I'm noticing is, one, emotional acceptance is huge. Anytime you're trying to make it a mind shift, reality shift, anything that's going on, you have to have acceptance for your situation of what's actually happening and like truly accept it. Like, I'm a dirtbag, and you got to tell yourself, look at yourself like a foot from the mirror and be like, I am a dirtbag. What is that movie? That's from a movie, isn't it?
I don't know.
It's probably a lot of 80s movies.
Yeah. But anyways, be able to actually tell yourself that and accept it and then say, okay, what am I going to do to change? And like, you got to feel all the feels. If you're going through the breakup, you got to actually feel all the feels. Like, let it happen. Process it. Don't just let it fester inside of you. Kind of take those things and run with it. Second, I would say do the little things right. That's been a huge sort of eye-opener. I actually met with another speaker, professional speaker, and I was sharing my story with her, and she's like, it seems like you do or focus on like the fundamentals. And what's so funny is my college track coach, he called me Big Fundies because I always did the fundamental things that he wanted at practice really well. And he's like, you guys got to be more like Will, like Big Fundies over here, like always like doing the hurdle drills right, the stretches, the runs, like running form, all that stuff. And so, yeah, just doing the little things right. And when you get everything taken away from you, it's crazy my whole identity was gone. So then it started with walking. And then it started with eating, right? Learning how to poop or pooping. Starting with the little things and appreciating those little things as well at the same time. Because if you don't appreciate those things in the moment, then it's just all you're going to keep yourself in that negative pit too. So appreciating life would be the third thing.
So good.
Yeah.
Those are awesome. I love them.
I know. I
Yeah.
know.
And it comes with sales too. Like, think about that. Like, whether it's doing the phone call or having the language or setting the meeting and sending the right calendar invite it's those little things that end up influencing the experience of the customer or client and how other people perceive you. And not that shit matters, because you should focus on yourself, but yeah.
But I think if other people are perceiving you poorly, we gotta. It's a red flag.
Yeah.
It's a red flag to take a look in the mirror and
That's
say,
fair.
okay, why are all of these people having a bad idea about me?
Yes. Yeah.
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 Well, I think
So-
that goes back to everybody's a hater thing.
Yeah.
If everybody's a hater, you should probably look in the mirror.
Yeah. That's fair.
You're probably the only hater. So
Yeah.
You're the one that's wrong here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes some self-reflection is necessary.
Yeah. That's important.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So what's next for you? Like what are you trying to accomplish for the rest of the life that you now have?
Yeah. Well, so I have all these like weird mini talents, I would say. And I mean that in the sense that so through the college career, I learned how to edit video. I got comfortable in front of a camera. And during my cancer experience, I was able to get a brief stint of TikTok fame. So accrued 100,000 followers, shared my experience, was vulnerable, got a few deals. That was fun. But then I kind of walked away from it after I was done. Started a podcast. We called it The Illest, actually. It was with my cancer friend, Roni. And it was us
The
just giving...
Illest.
The
That's
Illest.
awesome.
It was sick.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. She got that actually from Lil Wayne. Yeah, Lil Wayne. But regardless... Yeah, we did like 50 episodes of just like unfiltered discussion about cancer, like as a young adult. So what sex is like, drugs, taking drugs, I mean, drinking, what that's like, and just talked about it all. It was interesting.
So fun.
Yeah, but that also went to shelf just because both of our lives got busy. She got a partner. I started working. We just went back to our adult lives. And so now it's figuring out how can I bring these things together. And then through college, I was actually an English lit major of all things. So a writer, I mean, away with words, you could say.
Yeah.
But I wrote a blog for almost a year. And so how can I bring all these things together, and the speaking and the financial advising, and, you know, maybe someday adding an arm of like a health, you know, physical and nutritional health piece to it, because that was huge for my cancer experience too. But in calling it, I guess I'm going for ill inspirations is what I wanted to call it. And I want it to be a company, and I want it to have all these separate arms of different things that I do, and have the speaking arm, have the finance arm, have an arm where it's podcast, it's book, have another arm that's, you know, maybe a nonprofit sector that deals with resources for young adults in the cancer world, and have an arm that's nutrition, have an arm that's physical health and coaching and other survivors that want to share their stories, and then just all encompassed under this one thing. And
Love
That's
it.
beautiful. I
yeah,
love that.
now I'm trying to build that. So
Heck yeah.
yeah.
Well,
So.
I'm excited to watch it all
Thanks.
unfold
Yeah.
because you're so driven, and I can tell that you've got these ambitions that you're not gonna just sit on.
Yeah, that was
So.
you'll enjoy this. Another fun thing that I said to kind of keep my mindset right while I was sick was I always joked with my mom whenever something bad happened, I would laugh to her, and I would say, because in those situations all you can do is laugh, I would just be like, Mom, this is just a part of the story. It just adds to my legacy. People are going to love this when they hear about it. And she would just be like, shut up. Like, get in your hospital bed. Like, you need to chill out. I'm just like, they're going to love this. Like, this is going to be awesome. Think about me telling about this in the future. And so just keeping that vision of like, I know this will all, like, God didn't put me through this for no reason. Like, this will all, you know, benefit somebody someday. I just don't know when. And it's all part of the story. So
It removes the
true.
despair, right?
yeah.
I think once you think there's no end, or the end is nigh, like it is, man.
Yeah.
If you think this is going to be a cool story in my legacy, meaning this is going to carry on, you're a part of your future,
Yeah.
then you're going to be a part of your future.
Yeah.
At least when the people that give up and say, "This is it, bud.
Yeah.
You know, it's too hard." Like,
Yeah.
they give up. It's over.
Yeah.
They're not a part of their own future.
And I got really intimate with death, obviously, through that experience. Not only that, but watching some of my cancer friends that I made during the experience die while I was going through it, right? And so, I mean, I've been bedside to people as they've been cold to the touch, and I've watched friends with jaundice be completely yellow and pass away a day later, and I'd just seen them the day before. And so that also gives me a lot of perspective of just about like holy shit, like we're here, like this is real. I'm looking at the other side of life right now, and I love these people, and they're going away from me right now, and that sucks. So
How do you continue to prioritize your health? Because I mean, thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God you were so healthy going into it.
yeah,
What do you do now to take care of your health?
that's a great question. I would actually say, and this might be a hot take, but survivorship has actually been, I think, somewhat more difficult than the actual cancer itself, transparently. Mentally, emotionally, physically, and for my health, it's just really, really hard to take care of everything, really. Not only because I'm just becoming an adult and like I'm not under my parents' roof anymore and I've got bills to pay and like, yeah, like all that stuff's important, of course, but making sure I'm taking care of my sleep, setting strong boundaries around what I eat and what I don't eat, making sure I do my exercise, whether that's something small. Like lately if the only thing I could do is a morning walk in that morning, like doing the morning walk and making sure that I am active in some way during that day. Or if it's, you know, while I'm making my calls and things like that, if I'm walking around while doing that, just making sure that I'm up and moving. And then I meal prep as well. So I just try to make sure that the meals that I prepare are relatively healthy. I mean, I think if I'm not eating out, that's probably just a good first start, right? And making sure I have some green with everything that I eat, it's probably a good place to just start, right?
Yeah.
And even though I'm balling on a budget, you know, because I'm young and paying rent and sales jobs are hard, and you know what I'm saying? Like,
plus inflation, we get it.
Yeah,
we're
groceries
all
are
there.
expensive. Yeah. So even if it's ground turkey and rice, you know what I'm saying? And a bowl of spinach. Like, is that you?
That's what I ate every day.
Yeah, Chris eats beef.
Shout out. I got to give you a high five for that. Let's go.
It's red meat and rice. Every
There you
day.
go.
Yeah,
there you
it's
go.
my favorite.
There you go. So
I have tried to convince him to eat something different. I'm like, don't you want to switch it up? No.
Every time
Yeah.
I eat it, I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know. And then I eat it, and I'm like, it's fucking great. It's so awesome every time.
And so I got my partner on it one time. She was like, I want a meal prep. Like, what's one of like the fun, easy things that you made? And I was like, this is literally it. I threw ground meat in a bowl, like browned it, put like taco seasoning on it, and made rice, and was like, try it. And she's like, this is actually really good. Like, and like gave her sauce and chipotle ranch and stuff like that.
yeah.
And just eat it up. So,
Yeah.
It's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but those are some of the ways that I try to keep track of it. Of course, a lot of therapy. I know, Chris, you and I were talking before we kind of came in. It's a lot of it's the mental side of things, overcoming that hurdle, and then, you know, actually being able to like do the exercise is huge, even just from like a psychological level, right?
Yep.
And so therapy's been huge, and just like trying to maintain the mentals as much as the physicals. I figured out that the mental workout has become just as important as the physical workout now. It's
Oh, it drives
survivorship.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at your top performers, you know, your top athletes. It's not the physical game that's exhausting.
Yeah.
Physical game is a byproduct of where they know they need to go. They've fine-tuned that system.
Yeah.
It's the mental aspect. Do
Yeah.
I need to keep going? How do I not take my foot off the gas?
Yeah.
You know, that's very difficult.
Yeah.
What do you wish people knew? You've looked death like square in the face.
Yeah.
So, having had the experience that you've had at such a young age, like the rest of us here are listening to this and like, oh my gosh, what do you wish people knew?
I'm going to disclaimer this. I love love. I wish everybody knew how important it was to appreciate the people around them, and how important it was to be kind. That, I remember being kind. I was going through the shit. Like, I was in the middle of my cancer experience, and something I've always done is remain kind to the people that were around me, the people that served me, the people that helped me, thanking them, doing whatever I can to appreciate them. I remember the janitor that would come in and clean my room every morning. We were on a first name basis at one point. I knew about his kids, his family, everything he had going on. And it was one of his brightest parts of his day was walking in my room, because obviously around me is all babies and stuff like that. You can't talk to any of the patients, but I was able to sit there, have a conversation with him, and he always, I remember, appreciated that so greatly. And so whether it's that person that's lowest on the totem pole, or, you know, my oncologist who I visited literally end of last year, and we go out and get crab cakes in Maryland, and, you know, are just super appreciative of what he's going through. And all of a sudden it comes back, you know, God love him. He's now diagnosed with leukemia, ironically enough, and he has CML. So it's a super chronic long-term leukemia. But one of the first people he reaches out to is me. And he said, I want to know how you got through this. Like, I just need to know what to do. And so another funny story, my best friend actually from growing up in elementary school gets diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. Before he calls his parents, right after the doctor's office, he calls me. And he's like, hey, man, how are you doing? I'm like, good, not expecting anything. He's like, so I just got diagnosed with cancer. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? I was like, have you talked with your mom? Have you talked with your sister? He's like, nah, I really thought I should come to you first to kind of figure out how I should go about doing that. And I was like, oh man, that's just it's just a Band-Aid you rip off, man. There's no real fun way of telling people. And so he just snuck out my support for him, and that was really cool too. So yeah, I think just being kind goes a really, really long way. And I think everybody thinks it's just a fleeting thing. Even on my sales calls, like, people blow me off. I'm just like, okay, like, you're clearly having a bad day, so I'm sorry. Move on.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Do you have any other questions for Will?
So I'm just soaking this up, man. You're a cool dude.
I know,
Thanks.
right?
I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. I always think, I hope things are never too cheeky, right? Or like too cliche. That's always been like my fear of like, okay, yes, I've faced this experience. When I talk about being kind, being grateful, appreciating life, I never hope it's something that becomes like, well, gratitude itself, right? I feel like it's just like a mainstream cliche saying anymore. I have a really hard time even saying it because I feel like people don't take it seriously. So I'm trying to figure out different ways to navigate that. But
Well, there's a difference between saying it and living it,
Fair.
right?
Yeah.
So if you're living it, you can say it and it comes through as pure and it has meaning. What is the Progressive commercial? The girl standing in line and she's like, I'm practicing gratitude and abundance. It's like, of course that sounds stupid because of this scenario. But when you tell everybody what you went through and what you're going through, and then you talk about how being kind is paramount. Yeah. I mean, it resonates completely different. Yeah. It's not just some guy saying, hey man, just be nice to each other. Don't be a douche. Yeah. I had a gajillion reasons to be an asshole to everybody. Yeah. Including yourself. Yeah. And you chose not to. Yeah. Like, that's completely different.
That's another huge thing. Choice. I don't think I realized I was in a period of my life where I was in a slump here in survivorship for probably almost a year where I just felt stuck. And it took kind of getting back to my faith and kind of figuring out, like, I have a choice. I don't have to be in the things that I'm doing. I don't have to do the things that I'm doing if I don't really fucking want to, So,
amen.
Yeah. So just choice, I think, is a huge realization for people. And I wrote it down in my notes app the day that it came across my mind. I was just like, epiphany. I was like, man, I don't have to fucking do this shit. I was like, all right, I'm out. Like, stood up. Yeah. I don't know what I was doing at the time, but yeah.
I mean, cool. And in the most, the biggest ways you have choice. We think we're trapped in a job or we're trapped in a relationship or we're trapped in whatever situation. Yeah. We have so much more choice over our lives than what we give ourselves credit for. Yeah. And I could not agree more with you on that because I think, there's way too many people out there that are just grinding through a job or in a relationship that is not bringing joy to their life. Yeah. And instead of taking responsibility for the choice you have in that situation, you can just continue to go through the motions and be miserable if you want, but you're going to continue to get the same result.
Yeah. As soon as I figured out I had the choice, it was more empowering than anything else, I think, than any motivation that I'd listened to or anything like that. It was just like, holy shit, I get the option. All right, what do I want to do? And then I made the choice myself, and it was like, oh yeah, this is awesome. Yeah. I can go do what I need to do.
You took personal responsibility for your life.
Personal responsibility. There you go.
Yeah. Not a podcast episode goes by where Chris does not mention personal responsibility.
I love that.
It's because it's the foundation of everything, man. Yeah. It's the foundation of happiness.
It's our office's first value, actually. It's on our wall.
It's our core value here, too.
Really?
Yeah.
That's sweet. That's awesome.
It is not a way for me to live without it.
Yeah.
But I think what you just stated, that it is freeing, it is eye-opening, and it allows you to live life to a different level. Mm-hmm. That is personal responsibility at its purest. That's cool. I think people get scared because they go, or they think, wow, when I take responsibility for this, now I have to be responsible for all the little tiny things, and I'm not prepared for that, and it's scary. Yeah. Once you step out into that, the world is a lot brighter because you're in control of all these things. And all of a sudden, the world isn't happening to you. Yes. It's happening with you. Yeah. You're a part of
you.
That. Yeah.
For you.
Yeah.
And you can take something like a cancer diagnosis and 2 relapses and not have it destroy you. Yeah. I mean, there are people that stub their toe and it ruins their 3 months.
3 months, yeah. This damn toe won't heal. What's going on?
It just rocks people. Yeah. But... yeah, that's super powerful, man. That's very cool.
I used to be obsessed with the Navy SEALs. Now I'm just throwing in random stuff. I hope that's okay.
Go for it.
Trust me. Same boat. I was 100%.
We both have ADHD. It's fine.
Yeah, I watched the Buds YouTube video classes of their training classes.
It's because they're awesome.
Yeah, they're awesome. And this was in between my freshman and sophomore year of college, that entire summer, me and my roommate, just we're just animals. Let's wake up and just run 6 miles and then go do, just dumb shit, quite frankly, just with our bodies because we were in super good shape and we're just F it, let's do it. And so, I don't know where that came from, but the mentality thing just popped in my head. So
I love it.
Hell yeah. But I remember when I was 7 years old, I saw a Navy SEAL for the first time. Yeah. I lived on military bases. My dad was a bomber pilot. Okay. And he came out of the GNC holding a big old thing of protein. And his white uniform was screaming for help. He was jacked. Yeah. And I remember looking at my dad going, what does he do? Because he looks awesome. Yeah. And he's like, well, he's a Navy SEAL. You want to meet him? So I talked to him a little bit. And I'm like, this is the coolest guy ever.
Yeah.
And I'm terrified of open water. So
Yes. Yeah. There you go. know thyself, though, too, at the same time, right? Yeah.
I thought I was going to run a triathlon once. This is when I knew it solidified the Navy SEALs never happening.
Yeah.
I ran, I biked. I'm like, my buddy and I said, we're just going to go do a half-mile swim.
Yep.
So we're going to get on his jet ski, go a quarter mile out. He's going to swim to me, and I'm going to swim back.
Oh, that's cool.
We'll meet at the jet ski.
Yeah.
3 strokes, total panic mode.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm like, I don't know what's going on. The sea monster's going to come get me.
Yep.
Like, pure panic.
Yeah.
You know, and I just baby stroked back to the jet ski, and I'm like, fuck this.
I'm out.
Will
I'm out.
Never happen.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Never happen.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, open water's not my thing either.
No, I'm literally sweating talking about it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Don't worry, I'm a lifeguard. I got you.
There you go.
I'll just stick to the gym.
Yeah.
There's no water there.
There's no water there. Dry land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Will. Is there anything else that we haven't asked you that you want us to touch on?
No, just being here is awesome. So
Yeah.
thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for just seeing something in me that seemed worthy of sharing, and I'm just grateful for that. So thank you. Yeah.
Well, I think, your message caught my attention, and it's very hard to impress me with a sales outreach or any kind of outreach like this day and age, because we just get so many bad ones.
Yeah.
And yours truly was a very unique and authentic message. And I was like, okay, I need to talk to this guy. So you being you was what got you here. So just keep being yourself and helping people, inspiring people. I couldn't have enjoyed this any more than I did. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. How can people get a hold of you?
Instagram is just my name, William Yank. LinkedIn, William Yank. Facebook, same thing. If you're curious about reading or listening to any of the things that we've done, I mentioned The Illest, of course. I also did a solo podcast of Wednesdays with Will, which was just pretty much personal reflections. And then the blog is also called Wednesdays with Will, but that's on medium.com. So cool. You can check all those things out. Also, my YouTube channel, I've since privated a lot of my less than ideal videos. But there are some videos of me post transplant. I did make a jackass film or video collage of me in the hospital just doing hilarious things after anesthesia. So feel free to watch that as well. That's a classic.
We might need to link that in the show.
Yeah. So that would be where you can find me.
Amazing.
So. Oh yeah. Thank you, brother.
Of
Thanks,
course.
Will.
Yes, thank you guys.
Thanks for listening to Redefining Resilience.
To learn more about building your mental and physical readiness, check out odysseyresilience.org.
And follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok.